Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Big Brother Canada 11 update, daily drop update. That isn't daily. It's not daily, and it's not anything else. But we are here to talk about it. I'm your host, of course, Taran Armstrong, and we're going to talk about the latest from the Big Brother Canada 11 house. We have some information, some news to talk about. Some info to dump. All right. So, as you all know, in the double eviction, Kuzi left. Claudia won the HOH. She failed to nominate Ty. She nominated Daniel and Anika. Ty used the veto on Anika to force Shania on the block, and Shania was evicted. We then saw, had Anika win the HOH, the following HOH, and Anika failed to put Ty on the block, putting Claudia and Renee on the block, which, of course, follows made follow that the Ty then this week has, in fact, once again won the veto, and that's where we stand. To know what Ty intends to do with the veto, we'll talk through. To know what Ty intends to do after that, we'll also talk through. But I can tell you that it's pretty clear pretty quickly that Ty does intend to use the veto. So let's talk about it. Ty had a conversation with Renee. They're talking about Daniel and they're talking about Anika. And Ty says he wants to have a conversation with Anika about her, saying that she's played an honest game. He says if he starts questioning Anika and Anika starts denying stuff, is Renee comfortable being called in to the conversation to give her own 2 cents? It's become clear that basically since the last update, not only did Ty win the veto, but he's basically had a conversation with Renee where he told her that he intends to use the veto on Claudia. And Anika did not like that. Anika called him a liar, and they went a little bit back and forth. And Ty didn't like that conversation. He then had a conversation with Renee where Renee outed everything she had on Anika to make it seem like Anika was this big liar. And there's in particular a point of contention where apparently Renee had a conversation with Anika saying before the nominations, hey, wouldn't you want to leave Claudia and Ty on the block? And Anika interpreted that as Renee meaning that you can't keep the showmance on the block. And Renee apparently meant it in the sense of like, well, no, I'm just meaning that if you don't want to put me on the block and so on and so forth. And it's honestly a ton of nonsense that does not matter. I apologize that you even have to sit through this because I did not enjoy having to sit through it. Renee talks to Claudia and basically just gives her a big pitch and apology because this whole thing about the showmance comments has gotten out. And so Renee feels the need to apologize and feels like she's going to be on the block next to Daniel. And so she needs to make sure that Claudia doesn't want her out after she said potentially some things about Claudia. Renee says he's going to pull me off or pull you off. Renee says he's going to pull me and Anika into a room to have a conversation about what has been happening. She says, listen, Claudia, I've been playing defense all game long. And Claudia says, I'm sorry that you have felt that way. But listen, even though I've had my doubts, I've always come back to the trio. Renee goes back to her pitch. She talks about, hey, Hope and Johnny approached me about making a 3 all the way back during Zach's week, but I didn't give them my word on anything. And this is actually kind of illuminating, if it's true, that we always wondered what happened with Renee and Hope's relationship and why Renee's basically her whole social game and strategic game tanked way back when. Apparently, she was just turning down alliances. with Hope, and that potentially is the reason here. Um, so she says that Ty told her to fight in the veto and not to let him win, Renee, which is suspicious behavior because ostensibly they want Ty to win so that he can force Daniel on the block. You wouldn't want anybody else to win unless he doesn't care about Daniel going home. Uh, Claudia says, "Do you think he's working with Anika?" And Renee says, "Yeah." Claudia's like, "Oh man, it sucks because we've had to put so much trust into Ty, not because we want to, but because we have no choice. When he just wins everything, what can you do?" Renee is again just full on damage control. Just continues to it could campaign to Claudia. Apologize for what she said to Anika. That comment she made. She says she's been on defense. Because earlier Anika came up to her asking if Ty was going to use the veto, but Ty told her that she already knew he was going to use it. So just more sketchy things from Anika. Claudia says, "Oh man, this has to be the most chaotic showmance. People following this must be like, what's going on?" And Renee says, "It'll be a cool moment though when he uses the veto on you. Maybe he's looking to get into your family's good graces." Um, Listen, if there's anything this season has taught you, it's that if your girlfriend breaks up with you for treating her poorly, all you need to do is keep winning things and be in a powerful position, and everything will work out. Even the audience will come around. Um, Renee says that Ty told her that Kuzi told him to send Shania out after her, and then Daniel out after Shania, and to call him spineless on the way out the door. So hopefully he follows through with that. They're upset that it has to be Daniel though because they don't want Daniel to leave. They'd much rather have Anika leave. So Ty and Anika are going to have a conversation. And this conversation goes on for, it must have been an hour. I didn't time it. Hold on. I can quickly look because it was honestly so long. It started at like, what, 30, like 30 minutes in ish. And then it didn't end until, over an hour and a half. Yeah. So it's like an hour. It's over an hour long. It's over an hour long and it's complete, utter nonsense. I, so so done with this season. Ty and Anika are gonna have a conversation. She says, "Listen," and again, they're having this conversation. Let me try and explain the basics to you because it's again just nonsense. But the basics are that when Ty explained to Anika that he had to lie to her to stay off the block because he was going to use the veto after all, she called him a liar, and he defended himself by saying, "It's not my fault, it's your fault, actually. You're the reason I had to lie because you're a liar and you've done bad things in this game." And Anika was like, "What are you talking about?" And then they went back and forth. And then Ty went to Renee and he fished some information out of Renee, and Renee gave him little pieces that he was able to use to then go back to Anika and say, "See, now I found proof that you're a liar in this game. Haha, I'm right to use the veto right now. And I was right to lie to you. And I'm not a liar. I'm actually really straightforward and I'm really honorable. And I'm only lying in response to you lying. And that's basically what's happening." And Anika was like, "What are you talking about? You are lying." And yes, I also lied once or twice, but that's my game. I had to play the game. You get to win all the competitions. I don't get to win all the competitions. So I had to lie. I had to play a social game. What do you want me to do?" And Ty is like, "Well, what I want you to do is be better because I don't respect you. And now you have to be lied to." And she cried. That's basically what happened. But let me tell you more. So she's talking about, I know I'm not good at competitions. I know I had to play the social game. How else would you expect me to survive without playing the social game? He says, "Well, why didn't you play the social game more with me in particular?" He says, "It's your fault, Anika. Renee just told me some stuff about you. You decided not to trust me for no reason, and you're not taking accountability for that, Anika." She says, "Well, why did you lie to me before the veto about what you intended to do if I'm supposed to be able to trust you?" And he says, "Well, what would you have done if I had been honest with you? I would have been punished for being honest with you. So I was right to lie." And Anika goes on to explain that the only reason she didn't trust him enough is really because of Kuzi. If you think about it, Kuzi always talked about how Tai wasn't trustworthy, which Kuzi, she felt like Kuzi was leading her on a certain path, and how Kuzi ended up betraying her. And he says, yeah, but okay, what you're saying is that I'm playing a revenge game by wanting Renee to go before Claudia. But what's the difference between this and what happened with Kuzi? He says, the only reason I have to deceive people now is because I have to look out for myself for once. You know, for the first time in my life, I have to be selfish. And if you hadn't connected season 21 and Jackson Mickey to Tai yet, he finally said the words. So Anika says, listen, Renee came to me and said, why would I keep the showmance? And he says, well, she said she never said it like that. I can bring her up here if you want. Anika says, that is what she said. Anika starts crying. She says, did you mean it when you said you wanted to work with me and Daniel? He says, yes. I'm just mad, about all of this stuff, right? I'm mad that how about this, Anika? Remember that time I was campaigning to keep Hope over Jonathan? And I was working so hard to keep Hope. Apparently, my campaigning didn't mean anything, and that the only reason you kept Hope is because Jonathan told you to. He's mad about that. It should have been his campaign that made it work. He brings up the Renee thing again and calls Renee into the room, and then Renee gets involved, and he brings up this situation where Renee was apparently encouraged to lie about the Kuzi situation, that Anika was trying to campaign to make sure that Kuzi left over her, and it included Tai. And Renee says, yeah, and when I was on the block with Hope, you also lied about me, about keeping me if the veto wasn't used. You were trying to trick me into not having the veto used on me, and then you were going to get rid of me. And Anika says, I already apologized to you about that in the Circle K room, about the whole situation. I apologized. I explained it to you. And Renee says, no, you didn't. Let's get Claudia in here to explain this. And she calls Claudia in and she says, Claudia, did Anika ever say that she was planning to vote me out? And Anika says, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that I campaigned to keep you on the block because I didn't necessarily want you to be there. I never tried to pretend like I was going to keep you. In fact, again, I apologized for actively wanting you out to a degree. And Renee says, that absolutely never happened. And Claudia says, yeah, I mean, I felt like Kuzi was trying to make it seem like you wanted, that you guys were going to keep Renee. And Anika says, well, I never said that. Maybe Kuzi did, but I never did. And again, I apologize for it. And Renee again says, I didn't remember that. And yeah, she did apologize for it. And Renee just doesn't remember because Renee was so adamant about being mad about it at the time. But Claudia leaves. She's like, I don't want to be here. I don't like that Daniel's not here. So Claudia leaves and Tai questions them about the showman's comment. And they argue about the two different interpretations of what was said. Renee says she said that you weren't going to leave Tai and Claudia on the block. I didn't say showmance. And Anika says, okay, well, what are they? A showmance. And Renee's like, well, they weren't for a while. And it's a big difference between saying showmance and saying their names. It implies different things. And Anika says, well, I got the implication that it was this thing. And Renee's like, well, it wasn't that thing. And then they're like, okay, well, and Anika says, what does this have anything to do with my relationship with Tai? And Renee's like, I'm just saying that you're a liar. And Anika says, well, is there anything else? And Renee says, no. And so she leaves. And then Anika says, Tai, what did that have anything to do with anything about our relationship and what's happening right now? And Tai says, I can't get behind you lying in your campaign to stay against Kuzi. I get it that you were trying to stay, but it just shows me the kind of person you are. And you're trying to justify your lie based on what somebody else did, which is not a respectable way to play this game. And Anika says, you just lied. And he says, yeah, because you guys lied. So I had to in response. She says, what does this have to do with our current situation? He says, well, now I know what kind of person you are. You're a liar. He says, I lost my best friend in this game due to a situation that's never happened before and was unfair. And I'm not even here to play for the money. I just want to have people respect me and have to salute me when I win this game, whether I come second or first or whatever it is. He just wants people to have to salute him. He says, and listen, my mind's not made up, so there's hope on both sides. We have a few days. I'm definitely using the veto, but in terms of who's going, we'll see. We have to have some conversations. So just relax. I told Kuzi I'd promise to get you to Final Four, and I'm happy I was able to follow through on that via you winning this HOH. And I love Daniel to death, so I'll see what I can do to keep him here as well. And Anika, again, is crying a bit, and she's like literally begging as the feeds cut from this conversation and finally grant us some mercy. So Anika then talks to Daniel because Daniel comes up and he's like, so what's going on? Anika explains the conversation and Daniel leaves and he goes, ugh, I knew she was going to get me kicked out. So he goes to Ty. Daniel on damage control. Daniel says, listen, Ty, I want to know if you have any questions because the last thing I need is Anika fighting for me. And Ty says, she's just fighting for you for her game, which I understand. Daniel says, look, I know you're not going to sit here and tell me that Renee is better for your game. And Ty goes, no. But we knew that already. Here's my issue, Daniel. My issue is, look, and I never want to see you leave. My issue is with Anika and the inconsistencies with what she's telling me. I feel like at least with you, you take accountability for the things that happened, whereas Anika is blaming it all on Kuzi, and she can't take responsibility, and she's a liar. So Daniel says, okay, well, let me just explain my side again. And he talks about the safety chain, and he talks about using the veto on Ty, and he talks about the crown in those other situations. And Ty says, look, if I'm going to be honest, if it was the other way around with you as HOH and Anika on the block, I'd be sending her out. It's only because it's you that I'm heavily biased in favor of keeping you, Daniel. They go on to talk some more. Ty is still mad about the Hope situation. He says, the guy cheated and then got 5K. And then my best friend left. Not fair. Daniel says, look, I'll tell you this. It'll be hard for me to cut Anika. I'm not going to tell you that I'm definitely going to cut her, but I am going to promise you that I'm never cutting you at Final Four. I wouldn't be upset with a me, you, Claudia Final Three. And Ty says, Daniel, I respect your game. I really do. You've always been straight up with me, and I do believe you. Daniel says there's no world where Renee doesn't cut you at Final Four. I'll tell you that for free. Ty says, possibly. I think she'd consider cutting Anika after what happened today. But honestly, the biggest thing is just that Anika has pissed me off. But I don't want to let her destroy how I feel about you, Daniel. I want you at Final 3 or Final 2, but Final 3 minimum. Daniel says, great, because listen, our games are so different that I'm not concerned about sitting next to you in the Final 2. And here's my pitch against Renee. The same thing you said to me yesterday, please do not let Renee take me out of the game. Please do not let Renee be the one that takes me out of the game. And Ty goes, that's so funny because Renee sucks so much. Daniel says, you cannot trust Renee. Ty says, I can't trust anybody. Well, I will say I trust you more than anybody else, Daniel. And I believe him. I mean, the way that he talks to Daniel versus the way that he talks to the rest of the women in the house is definitely, you get the sense that he trusts Daniel more. Daniel talks about all the deals that Renee made last week. He says that she's untrustworthy because look at how she operated last week. She got deals out of everyone, did what she was going to do anyway, and got deals out of everyone. He talks about some specific wording of those deals, and Ty says, oh yeah, she made that exact same deal with me actually too. That's funny. Ty says, look, all I wanted was to understand everyone's game as much as possible. Now I know more about Anika's game. I know that if we did make it to Final Four together, which we will, that she's susceptible to influence and she's a liar. He talks again about how much he doesn't need the money, and the feed's cut to Claudia and Renee. Renee says, Renee goes on to talk about one of the things that came up in the conversation with Anika is that Anika said that Shania told her that Renee wanted Kuzi to stay over Anika. So Renee is telling Claudia that Shania ratted me out for wanting Kuzi to stay. Thanks a lot, Shania. Renee says that she still doesn't believe Anika about apologizing in the Circle K room. So I don't really remember a whole lot of that conversation, but I definitely don't remember Anika apologizing, which again makes sense because she didn't respond like she heard Anika apologizing. Ty ends up coming in the room, and Renee says, I don't know what you're going to do, Ty, but I hope you at least see in that conversation what, Anika's true colors are. Ty says, don't worry, I see it. And then Daniel and Anika talk a little bit as well. She asks how his conversation went. He says they mostly talked about Renee. He says, we need to make it seem like we're not scared and that we trust him. She says, I'm trying to do that. He says, don't fight too hard. Let me handle this. And that was the drop. Whew. Man, okay, 20 minutes. It felt like it was 2.5 hours. It felt like 5 hours at least. I'll tell you that. So that's where we are. Ty is going to use the veto on Claudia, and he is telling Daniel multiple times that he intends to keep Daniel over Renee. So he's going to use the veto on Claudia, force Daniel on the block, and then vote Renee out, is the current plan. He is leaving some room for wiggles, waffles, flip-flops. There's a couple days between, this was yesterday, and obviously Thursday. So there's plenty of time for things to change, plenty of time for Anika to continue to piss him off or whatever, or for Daniel to say the wrong thing, or for Claudia or Renee to say the right thing. I will say Daniel, I think, did a very good job talking to Ty, especially in comparison to how the other players have talked to Ty. I do think that Ty gives Daniel more leeway, but he definitely approached it the right way. Approached it in very much in the like, hey, come on, it's us, and Ty was like, yeah, it is us. So it does feel like Daniel has a leg up here, but I would not say he's locked safe by any means at this point, and really none of it matters because let's face it, Ty is making it to the final three, and then maybe we'll lose part 3 of that final 3 HOH. So that's where we are. That's where we are. We'll be back tomorrow with an update on the veto ceremony. See if there's any changes in Ty's plans or anything like that. But yeah, that's about it. So I will be live tonight with the Stock Watch. We'll talk through the week. We'll rate the players. Might be a faster one tonight, or maybe not. Maybe there's a lot of. Listen, I really think there's a lot of parallels to season 21 in this season, especially like Ty's positioning. Obviously, Ty and Jackson, different people. Probably a bit less racism involved, but in terms of how they've played the game, not all that different. So we'll see what happens with all of that. We'll talk about it tonight on the Stock Watch. You can rate the players yourself and give your opinion on the season. And that's what we have today. Tomorrow, of course, we'll be back with another update. And then I'll also be live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, to chat through, stuff, games, Big Brother. Watch the episode tomorrow night. We'll be live to recap it afterward. And in just over a week, robswebsite.com/Toronto. We'll be live in Toronto for the finale of Big Brother Canada 11, where we'll all party our troubles away. So that's what I have for you. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. And I will see all of you next time.